we are about to try to redo our top 10 players in the WNBA. We did this before um, on the show, and I have some movement on my list. I remember that Marcus and I's list were pretty similar. Um, but I have some movement, and I was going to bring up. So we did have kind of an injury clause for Satu Sabali. Neither of us had her in our top 10. For that reason, she still hasn't come back yet. And she started the season out. Um, and it kind of hit me that we didn't afford that same clause to Chelsea Gray, because I had Chelsea Gray in my top 10 coming in. I'm pretty sure Marcus did as well. Which I think we pretty much assumed that she would be a top 10 player. But in fairness, Chelsea Gray, we could have left her off our top 10s initially. So I wanted to mention that. But there is some interesting movement, and I'm looking forward to seeing if we can get Dwayne Marcus back in here and active, so we can really kind of chop it up about this. But so top two players are the same for me: Asia Wilson, Brianna Stewart. I think they're still the top two players in the league. My third player did change. I had Alyssa Thomas in there in the top three, which for me carried over from last season. But I think right now Nafisa is comfortably slotted there as the third best player. What's up, buddy? Good to see you. You look all right. You look like you're moving okay.
What's up, man? I don't know what's
going. So yeah, I got Nafisa top three.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think both of our top fives should have changed. I mean, I think we both should have had some movement based on new information, based on the season. I have Jewel Lloyd at 4, and Kalia Copper is not only in my top 10, but now she is a top 5 player in the WNBA comfortably for me right now. So walk me through your top 5. Where are you at so far?
Our top 5 is identical. We just got some switches. So Ka is 4 on my list.
Then it's not identical.
Like the players are identical. I mean, not like the order. Like we have the same 5 players.
Okay.
So Kalia Copper's 4 on mine instead of Jewel Lloyd being 4. So Jewel Lloyd's 5, and then Nafisa is actually 2, because when I was thinking about the top 5 players, I was thinking about it from an MVP standpoint, like who have been essentially, like if I'm voting for MVP, who fills out my ballot. Nafisa would get my vote for second place on my MVP ballot, and Stewie would be third. So that's same players, slightly different order, but yeah, I think Nafisa's been number 2.
That's fair. But who's the better player? If we're saying that who if that's what you're going by, if we're talking just basketball, who's the better player, you're still going Nafisa right now?
I think Stewie overall is the better basketball player. I think Nafisa has played better so far this season, though, which is why she's 2.
Okay. That's fair. That makes sense. I like to go by basically the first part of that. Like, sure. I think aesthetics matter. Like, we're going to talk about top 5 scorers, and that's like, there's an aesthetic conversation there too that I look forward to kind of getting your take on. But as an all around player, like, I kind of take away, like, I like to think of it as just as a basketball, which how you're playing right now contributes to that. It's not just all like ability, it's based on how you're playing right now. So you doing it that way, I think, is totally fair.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing too for me is like Nafisa, I know we talk a lot about how great that Asia's is and has been defensively, but I also think like between the two, I think Nafisa's also been playing better ball defensively as well between herself and Stewie this season as well. So it's like a really close thing, and that's going to be a trend when we get to the tiers as well. It's like a really close thing, but I would just give the edge to Nafisa ever so slightly.
I think the top 3 is clear cut, and I think I mean, we all know Asia's 1, and I think Stewie and so you can kind of like it's almost a toss up right now. But I'm
Yeah.
totally good with her being that number 2. At 6, I had to put in somebody who wasn't in my top 10 at first, who I struggled with, I struggled with it, like I said, but clearly right now, Jonquel Jones is a top 10 player. I have Jonquel at 6.
Jonquel Jones is not in my top 10, bro.
Yo, really? Wow. Really?
Jonquel's not in my top 10.
Literally like deja vu, roles reversed, all of that right now. Like Twilight Zone. Like,
Jonquel, yeah. So it was tough.
I mean, I look forward to seeing where you went because I mean, I struggled with a couple names, but
yeah.
All right, bro.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to hearing who.
Jonquel's not in my top.
Who do you have at 6?
So I'm gonna be honest. I have Sabrina at 6. I think that, and again, a lot of it, I'm putting a lot of weight on what we've seen so far this season. And
okay.
You and I have had this conversation a lot, like on the show about other players not named Breanna Stewart needing to step up consistently. And you, obviously, from the beginning of the season, was very adamant on Sabrina. What we've seen from Sabrina so far this season, we talked about it a little bit last season or last week on the show. It's the best year of her career so far, as just being able to like what she's doing from a scoring standpoint, what she's doing from a playmaking standpoint, from a facilitating standpoint, like consistently she's been, and I showed love to Jonquel last week because we talked about that as well. But it's interesting how like things have ebbed and flowed because I fought so hard to try to put Jonquel on this list. I really, really did. I tried so hard. I reworked this list so much, but just when I think about the way that Sabrina's been playing, when I think about the other 4 players on my list that filled out the rest of my top 10 have been playing in respect to where their teams are, it hurt me. It certainly hurt me because I was like, I can't, it was tough because we just saw Jonquel go 34-8 against the Aces a couple weeks ago. And it's hard to think that like a performance like that isn't good enough to get you in the top 10, but she's not in my top 10. Like I really wanted to put her at 10, especially, but the player I have at 10, and I think once we get there, based on conversations that you and I have had, you'll 100% be like, it makes sense that I have that player at 10. But Jonquel is not my top 10.
I'm proud of you for vying for Sabrina. I'm proud of you for making that Sabrina. I mean, she almost cracked your top 5. That's impressive. And we, I talked some about it last week. I mean, we are seeing from her, she's one of the top guards in the league for sure now. She has proven that like she's playing top 10 basketball, I would say. Wow, that is interesting and good for her. Good for her to get that and for that to be like legit for her. I still look forward to hearing the rest of your name. Sabrina at 6. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right.
At 6. Yeah, man.
I have Jackie Young at 7. Wait, is that 7? Sorry.
Yeah, we're on 7.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah.
Jackie Young is not my 7. She's not my 7.
Crazy. I actually I should have put numbers here because now I can add one and I'm glad because you better have the person who I just now put at 10, who I can now put at 10 because she's a top 10. You better have if Jonquel's not in there, it better be for this person. It might be someone else I'm thinking you might have in there too, though. All right, sorry. Who do you have at 7?
I have Angel Reese at 7.
Yo, you came you came crazy tonight. I'm not gonna say crazy. I don't think it's crazy. But Sabrina at 6 and Angel Reese at 7. Top 10 players right now.
I think the thing for me, I think the thing for me with Angel is coming into the season, the big conversation was everyone like knew that like Caitlin's game would translate because of the way that she plays and where she was going, right? She was going to Indiana, like having a lead guard with the skills of Caitlin Clark. Everyone expected that to translate. I think while there were people that still expected Angel Reese's game from college, from LSU to translate, I don't think a lot of people expected it to translate this. I'm like I'm not going to say easily, but like this quickly and this fluidly. And I think it has a lot to do with who she's playing for and where she's playing at. Like Angel Reese has been, she started off the season
let
rough.
me just, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, bro, but let me, because when we were texting, when we were going through that, you asked me specifically, like, you said something like,
I
this
asked specifically,
season or right now. You were saying this
or
season or right now or in general, which I understood, but I want to make it clear for anybody watching this, because I don't know if you could clarify, speak for yourself, but based on your criteria, because you're going off of what you're seeing this season impact for their team, the things you said before, like, you are not suggesting, are you? And go ahead if you will, but are you suggesting that Angel Reese is better than Jonquel Jones right now?
No, not
right. You're not right.
Angel
Yeah,
Reese is not better than Jonquel Jones in
right.
totality.
See, my list is the 10 best players in the WNBA. Period. Like, that is how I did my list.
So here's how my list came about. I'll be honest, I wrote out a list of 15 players that I thought, and there were like 6 or 7 of them that were undeniably top 10, and the other half were like an argument. And I looked at all of those players, and then I translated that. Okay, now who are the 10 to 15 best players just this season alone? Like, who have been the 10 best players on the basketball court this season alone? And then I mix and match and put a list together that made the most sense. So the reason why Jonquel dropped out of my top 10, it's not because I think that she's not a top 10 player in totality. I think that there have been other players this season that have been more meaningful, more impactful to their team's success and where they are right now that put them in their top 10, whereas Jonquel is not. So in this list of like the way that my top 10 is formatted, Jonquel Jones is 11. She got beat out by one player in specific. Like I said, when I get to that player, I think you'll understand why she's, why she's there, because we've kind of talked about it before. But yeah.
Wow,
this very interesting. And I asked that question. I'll be honest. I asked that question to you over text because I knew how you were coming with your list, and I knew that with I didn't want to have like an identical list, but I also wanted to make sure that I was accurately like assessing what was happening in real time based on like what we were seeing. And so I think I probably gave a little bit too much weight to like what was actually happening in 2024 and kind of not happened all before, because like Jonquel Jones is a better basketball player than Angel Reese right now, obviously. But if I'm just saying based off of this season, I would say that Angel Reese has been a better player than Jonquel this season, but she's not a better basketball player than Jonquel Jones. No, I'm not. That's not the suggestion that's being made. Because if Cameron Brink wasn't hurt, she would be in my top 10 as well.
So the only thing I want to say about that is that when we get to scorers, an easy way to go about that based on, I'm not saying like you're wrong for that criteria, but it's always interesting. Like, even when I started looking at stuff to go through my top 5 scorers list, and I've argued with people about this before many times. Many people, when you ask them who the best scorer is, they just go to who averages the most points. Most people, a lot of people, if you ask them the top 5 scorers, they're going to go to points per game and see who the top 5, which that was my starting point. But like, that's why I love the scoring conversation. I'm a scoring enthusiast. And so I love that conversation because aesthetic does come into play. It's not just the numbers. It's not just impact. It's like scoring is very specific. Who do you trust to get a bucket if you give them the ball? That's all your list should be about. You know what I mean? Like, it's that's all it's about. So for me, I think of this list as it should be the 10, like, in totality, who are the best players. And again, I don't think it's to say it's wrong to do like a right now thing, and that is why you asked. But that certainly is going to make our list different because yeah, I mean, I would have a different list if it was just based on like, I mean, if it was based on what you're saying, even like, Asia's not the MVP. Like, she's not the best, but she wouldn't be like, her team isn't like it would go to probably like Sabrina or Brianna or Nafisa or like, but
I think Asia is a special case though.
she is.
Yeah.
But
I
again,
think
it's because like she's that good. Like she's clearly better type of thing. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not just about because this season the Aces have not been great yet,
No. Yeah.
That it doesn't mean, I mean, she's like if you're watching, you're seeing she's clearly the best player. So, but yeah, I don't want to knock your criteria. I had to give that caveat because I have these conversations many times and things get lost and misunderstood. And so that's good. All right. So I have Arike at 8.
Huh. As do I.
Really?
Yeah.
Even though her team has won like 4 total games this season?
I look at the Dallas Wings and I think it's clear that they don't have the record they have if Satu Sabli's healthy. I think it goes down to for them. Because I think Arike has played consistently like what we expect Arike to play, like how we expect Arike to play basketball. I don't think their suffering is because Arike has dropped off as their best player because she's been consistent. It's just they're missing their second best player, and so that's why they're not able to win these games that and they're in a lot of tight games. Like they're in a lot of tight games. They're not getting blown out. So yeah, I have Arike at
8. Kelsey Plum is at 9 for me.
Jackie Young is my 9. Kelsey Plum's not on my list.
Who do you have at 10? It better be the right person because even by your criteria, this person deserves to be top 10 if you got Sabrina in there. But it could be between 2 people. I'm thinking two people.
So if there's 2 people, I was tied between. It was either going to be Caitlin on this list at 10.
Shut up, Marcus.
I'm not lying. It was going to be Caitlin, or it was going to be, or it was going to be Dawana because of conversation that we had the other day when I was talking to you about how the Sun. Dawana Bonner is my 10. Yeah.
Okay. Dawana was one of the 2 I thought. Dawana was one of the 2 I thought.
Brian Howard's. I don't know what's happening with Brian Howard this season.
Bro, I don't make me depressed. I mean, I don't even want to look into. I've been wondering myself, and I'm scared to even look into it. I don't even.
Yeah. Dawana's my 10, and I'll just reiterate for show's sake what I said to you on the phone the other day. We were kind of talking about the Sun. I think that this season, Alyssa Thomas obviously was very instrumental in the undefeated start to the season for the Sun because she is their best player. But I think, and I especially picked up on this after having gone to that Mystics game when the Sun were here, and then thinking back and looking back at some of their other games. Dawana Bonner is consistently the Suns' closer. Like whether they are in a tight game and they need to seal the win, whether they need to come from behind and need to pick up the win, Dawana Bonner is their closer, and she doesn't always get off to a hot start, but once we start get rolling, like come third, fourth quarter time, like she is consistently in that mode and she's consistently closing these games out for the Sun. And to me, that held weight. So I moved Dawana Bonner up from originally where she was like 12 on my list when we did it at the beginning of the season. She's now 10 for that reason. And I think I think she deserves to be in that spot there.
I've decided that for one, you no longer deserve Kelsey Plum on your so-called favorite team.
Because I didn't have her in my top 10.
That's for one. The disrespect is unbelievable.
I didn't disrespect Kelsey Plum, bro. I love KP. I think KP's great.
You were ready to put Caitlin Clark in the top 10. And KP is not even in.
It wasn't like it wasn't like by
Caitlin Clark and Jonquel Jones didn't make the cut. I mean, you were considering her too, but
it's not like I was just like, oh yeah, Caitlyn over everybody. It's not like it was just like a dismissive type of thing. It was a well thought out process, Mark. Well thought out process. I had to stay true to form though. I've been very tough on Caitlyn. I had to stay true to form. I couldn't.
Let me be the one.
I was very modern.
Go ahead.
You know what it was? Remember when we talked about Caitlyn originally, and I said Caitlyn Clark is not going to be a top 10 player year one. You know what it was?
Said you wouldn't average 20 a game as a rookie. Yeah, I tried to get you to backtrack it. I tried to save you.
The ghost of
only 4 points off.
I'm not backtracking. I was like, man, it wouldn't actually be a good look if I put her in my top 10 after I just kind of said she wouldn't be like a top 10 player year one. So I just I kind of had to just leave her out in the cold for just for the optics, But yeah, who do you have at your 10? I mean, I think we went about this very differently, but who do you have at your 10?
Well, there are 4 players right now who are averaging a double-double. 3 of them are in both of our top 10s, and the 4th is my number 10, and she's not in your top 10, and I'm going to give her respect and her flowers right now. Do you know who that person is?
I'm really sitting here trying to think of who all the players that are averaging a double-double are.
Only 4.
And he's just averaging a double-double. Nafisa's averaging a double-double?
Oh, well, one of them is in your top 10, not mine, actually.
Angel's averaging a double-double.
Yep.
Who's the 4th person that's averaging a double-double?
You might have to think hard, but it shouldn't have to take it. It shouldn't be that.
I don't think she's ever done a double-double. Is De'Erica averaging a double-double?
She sure is. 19 and 10. And I got her right at 10 because she's played her way into a top 10 player right now. The other players, I was considering Dewana, and I was struggling a little bit with NECA actually. But yeah, that's those are our very differently thought through top 10 lists.
I finished my list this morning when I was on the way to work, and I said Martin's either going to
I'm really glad to have Sabrina in. I'm really glad you have Sabrina in yours because I was
gonna say like Martin's gonna either like really appreciate the inclusion of Sabrina, or it's gonna be completely overshadowed by 6 through 10. I think.
I love Angel. I love Angel making the cut. I think by your criteria, your list kind of makes sense.